to talk about what is this thing called tala. The earliest writing we have about it is from the Natya Shastra, which is, by any reckoning, at least 2,000 years old. So the tala in the Natya Shastra, it comes with a very kind of interesting caveat, not a caveat really, a little epigraph that goes along with it that says, through tala you come to equipoise, whatever that means. Now, I take equipoise as meaning a kind of inner balance. And the way that happens, in the Natya Shastra, the musicians were directed to be positioned so that they could see one another. And what they specifically needed to see was one another's hands. Because the tala, even now, is always measured by hand gestures, some of which date all the way back to that time. So, and one feature of the tala that we don't talk about very much, but it's very important to any drummer in the system, is that the beat, each one of those beats, is construed as comprising a number of pulses. It's not divided and subdivided like Western music. These are right there, right from the beginning. In fact, one of the definitions of a beat, of the duration of a beat, as far back as the Natya Shastra, was the length of time it takes to speak 5 short syllables. So we have a notion there that even 2,000 years ago, that spoken syllables were an important part of this. So in a concert, for example, there are improvisational sections, but in the songs themselves, the singers are doing what they have learned to do. Very interesting thing. There's no indication for what the drummer should play. Absolutely none. There's a vocabulary of sounds, there's a vocabulary of strokes, there's a vocabulary of tempi, of dynamics. All these kinds of things have to come into it, but nobody tells the drummer what to do. So the accompaniment to one of these songs is entirely improvised. And paradoxically, that's the only part of drumming that's completely improvised. When a drummer is playing a solo, the solo comprises composed material that the drummer learned from his or her teacher, or made up himself or herself. So there's this combination of what we've learned and what's applied in the moment that's at the very heart of what we do. And as far as I'm concerned, the tala is what grounds the whole thing. And so you have this sort of centripetal energy of the material, which is pulling against the tala structure, but you always have the centrifugal force of the tala pulling it down and holding it to the ground. And it's very interesting. Where you live is in the border between those two energies. And that's, I believe, what the Natya Shastra meant as equipoise.
I'm going to show you how intricately the rhythm is woven with the melody, for which to play any composition, to improvise, you need a very strong sense of timing. A phrase has to be perfectly placed. So what I insist is both the time and the melody. Melody in terms of the pure tones to start with, which combines making meaningful phrases, will have to be inside you. Although we may have gadgets and other external devices to support you, help you, ultimately it has to come into your body. What I'm going to show, when the tala is the first layer, on the top, when you're going to recite, it is going to be set against the basic timing of the tala. So, takka-din, I start with that, takka-din, 1:4. Takka-din, takka-jun, takka-din, takka-takka, takka-din, takka-jun, takka-din. You can also play. Takka-jun, takka-din, 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 takka-jun, takka-din, takka-jun, takka-din, takka-jun, takka-din, takka-din, takka-jun, takka-din, takka-jun, takka-din, takka-jun, takka-din. displacement exercises. So I try to manipulate the internal timing through a proper understanding and consciousness of the basic tala. So tala is very, very important. Tala is not simply keeping the counts. I'm going to give you the same thing, takademi as taka, taka. That's more difficult than takademi. Taka, 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 taka. Manodharma comes with a perfect understanding and perfect experience, and you really release yourself from that state of learning to creating. So learning is very important. That's why beginning is very important. Every beginner, even they begin perfectly with the right manner, I think the musicality which is ingrained in us will come out very quickly. So there is no quick method. So what we do is acquire more and more compositions without really mastering the basic techniques. So I would insist that every beginner, everyone, and it applies to dance as well as in music, we have to have these fundamentals very well established.
When I first started learning from Dr. Subramanian, I was asked to learn how to tune. So every day I sat with the Tanmura and tuned the Veena until I thought it was ready, and then he checked it and made sure it was okay. And after a week, he decided that I had done well enough and I was ready to move on. And after that experience, I stopped playing on the Veena that I was using because the frets were incorrect and it sounded jarring to me because I finally learned how to listen to the tones properly, and I could see where they were wrong and where they were right. And learning how to tune and listen to the tones has helped me throughout my playing experience, because in the Veena, in all the pulling and embellishments that we do, you have to be able to listen perfectly, know when to stop pulling so that it sounds right. And it still helps me to this day.